Huh, what do you know? Another video talking about the Montreal Canadiens and the Chicago Blackhawks. It's almost like this is a link that everybody seems to be bringing up at every possible opportunity they can. Except this time, we're also talking about the Detroit Red Wings, because today, what we are doing is we are responding to two separate articles/radio hits that go out there and dive into what two of my favorite teams, the Wings and the Habs, could do heading into the next little while. The trade deadline is in a week or so, and we are on the cusp of seeing some pretty significant moves break out across the National Hockey League. With this in mind, we are talking about one of the biggest contracts that is on the market right now that has already requested a trade, or at least I'm saying he requested a trade. He technically says he didn't, but let's be real, he requested a trade. Because today we are heading over to the Windy City in Illinois. It is Chicago, and we are talking about one of the most expensive guys in the market, Seth Jones. Yeah, this is another video about him, considering the trade situation, considering the status, and considering his recent comments about the Chicago Blackhawks just not being a team that is good enough to win. We can get into an entire other conversation about that and his ill feelings towards his own hockey team, but it's been very publicly documented that Seth Jones would welcome a trade. Him and his huge $9.5 million AAV contract that goes on till 2029-2030 as a 30-year-old right now with 27 points in 41 games played this season. Seth Jones is overpaid. He's not a bad defenseman by any means. I mean, he's not the best defensively, I guess you could say, but still, there is offensive productivity. He is a number one power play guy in Chicago. He is utilized as a number one every single night. But with his frustrations being put on full display the past week and him publicly saying that he would be okay with the trade, we are now getting into options as to teams that could be in a position to take him and his contract on. In particular, we're talking about the Wings and the Canadiens. Let's start out with the Detroit conversation first, because there was an article posted on the Hockey News by Adam Perteau yesterday talking about what the Red Wings can do after trading Ville Husso. This link is going to be in the description, as well as our ExpressVPN affiliate page. The show is brought to you by Express. Go out there and check out the first link in the description to save some money in your VPN, get some free months, and support this YouTube channel all in the process. But if you dive into the Hockey News article by Perteau, you will find a conversation on money. The Wings shelled out a lot of money with the $4.7 million Ville Husso contract, but they traded him away. Since Husso's cap hit is $3.6 million while in the minors, the Wings now have about $11 million in current cap space. That can become about $13.57 by the trade deadline, according to Puckpedia. The Red Wings announced veteran center Andrew Copp had a season-ending surgery to repair a pectoral muscle injury. The Wings don't need to put him on the LTIR unless they blow through their current space, but if they want to be victorious in the wildcard race, they should try to add as much as they can. Now, this is where the article dives into some of the potential options. There's a deal talked about with Jacob Trouba, and that was a thing that Yzerman was interested in doing a year ago. But if you go over into the Seth Jones conversation, this is where the article writes this. Despite Andrew Copp's injury, Detroit's need right now should be a minute-munching blue liner to ease the responsibilities for Seider. Getting someone such as Seth Jones and his $9.5 million cap hit would make a lot of sense for the Wings if they can fit him in for the long term. The Wings are tied for 10th most goals against per game, with 3.14. That's the worst goals against average for any team in a playoff spot right now, thus highlighting the need for a defender. Not many NHL teams could absorb Jones' full salary without Chicago having to retain either. It was rumored last year and over the summer that Yzerman had interest in Trouba from the Rangers. This happened, of course, before the Rangers dealt Trouba to Anaheim, but moving on a Jones trade is exactly the type of big swing Yzerman has been looking to make for some time. If he can find an asset match for the Blackhawks, making a Jones trade happen might not be as tough a task as it seems to be on the surface. So my question to you is, the Detroit Red Wings, They finally freed up some cap space. Finally, I say finally. They already had a lot of cap space. They just got even more with the Ville Husso trade and the potential Andrew Copp LTIR situation. But would you like to see the new cap space be used like this? Seth Jones. Let's bring him down. 23-plus minute per night defenseman, a big right-handed guy who can play number one power play, although in Detroit he might not be in that position to do that. I'm not really too sure. Maybe it's just Sider, who really knows. But still, Gustafsson, I guess, is there as well. But there are enough power play potential defenders on the Red Wings to make Seth Jones's power play deployment not all too necessary. If you wanted to focus on giving him just tough matchups, top penalty killing minutes, that certainly would be an appropriate idea. But I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is this a guy that you think your team should go out there and target if you are a Detroit Red Wings fan? Certainly would not be the easiest thing to digest at $9.5 million, but still, I want you to let me know what you think. Now, on that note, I also wanted to leave a link in the description to a video posted on BPM Sports' Twitter account. This is George Laraque going out there and talking about Seth Jones. Of course, it's in French, so translating it to English, this is what the video goes out there and says. BPM Sports asks if Chicago retains a third of Seth Jones' salary, so he only costs you $6 million a year. Is that okay? He costs $6 million, there are 5 years left on the contract. If they trade him to Montreal and they ask for Calgary's first-round pick, do you do it? A right-handed D-man, a 40-point-per-year guy on a bad team no less, a solid defenseman, I would do it right away. 100 miles an hour. Imagine him with a better-equipped team than Chicago like Montreal. So what I'm saying here, it isn't crazy. He's going to be traded and the Blackhawks know they have to retain part of his salary. Laraque says. Now, I do question whether or not Seth Jones getting retained is a guarantee. We know that the Red Wings are one of the few teams in the NHL that don't need to actually get salary retained for the contract and the deal to go through. And the question is really there, whether or not the Blackhawks would be interested in holding on to $3 million in retained salary space until the 2030s. Is that something that they'd be interested in? Who really knows? Let's say the answer is yes, then okay, I actually do think it would make more sense for Detroit to target Seth Jones, but when it comes to Montreal, if you were to trade away a David Savard and shift gears a little bit to Seth Jones, who is younger, but who also is locked on for a lot longer, I can understand the philosophy there. Like Seth Jones and David Savard, I'd say that they're kind of cut from the same cloth. Big guys who have a primary focus on defense. It's just Jones has a much more emphasized offensive skill set than David Savard. And when you're thinking about Savard being potentially moved, if you wanted to get some assets for that, get some younger pieces, okay, great. But how do you fill that hole on defense? Well, you trade some of those other younger pieces for Seth Jones. It's not that bad of an idea in theory, especially if you just kind of work things around so that you don't really hurt the rest of the team. You don't really take away too many other assets. If you just swap out Savard for Jones with a few extra pieces going the other way there, I think it does make sense for the Montreal Canadiens. But ultimately, is that a trade that the Blackhawks would be interested in making? They know they have a pretty valuable defenseman. For as much as we like to crap on Seth Jones and his defensive incapability and his huge contract, he's a good player to some extent. And he is a big right-handed defenseman, which NHL teams will always find ways to want. So, would Montreal be in a spot where it's like, okay, they're kind of starting to be competitive. We thought they would be a little more competitive this year than they have been, but they have younger assets, they've got prospects, they could send them over to Chicago and just try to get that sort of a deal done. Is that really the kind of move that makes sense here? I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you're a Blackhawks fan, what kind of assets would you want from a Detroit Red Wings squad or a Montreal Canadiens squad if it's a trade for Seth Jones? And furthermore to that point, how much does the price change if you don't have to retain any salary? Let's say instead of retaining $3 million like George Laraque on BPM is proposing, you retain none. How much extra value are you willing to sacrifice in your trade package return if you're able to not hold on to an extra $3 million? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this Seth Jones trade idea. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.